Good afternoon, everybody. So, as you may know, the U.S. Conference of Mayors is meeting in Washington this week, and a significant group of mayors will be meeting with the president later today to discuss a range of issues. I asked for the three best mayors in America to join me at the White House briefing today. A bipartisan group of the three best mayors of America have joined me today. And so what I am inclined to do is to give them the opportunity to make brief statements at the top, and then they'll stick around for a little bit to take some questions from all of you. So I'll just introduce them all, and then we'll go from there. So to my right is Mayor Sly James, the mayor of Kansas City, Missouri. So again, he was chosen specifically because he is one of the best three mayors in America. To his left is Mayor Ashley Swearingen. She is the mayor of Fresno, California, and she is a Republican, but she is also somebody who is committed to solving problems. And I think she is a good example of somebody who does not let partisan differences get in the way of actually trying to do the right thing for her city. She'll talk more about that. And then to my left is Mayor Marty Walsh from the great city of Boston. So, Mayor James, you wanted to start, and we'll just work our way across?
I'll be happy to.
Okay. Pardon me.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here. And I noticed a groan when I was introduced. I guess that has something to do with the fact that the Royals are world's champions. Far be it from me. But I am here to say, first of all, that Kansas City has done quite well under this administration. We have been very fortunate to be the recipient of a $30 million Choice Neighborhoods grant that is being put to use in one of the gateway areas of Kansas City. We are involved in Connect Home and Connect Ed. The Choice Grant specifically is something that we treasure because it's a collaborative effort between universities, neighborhoods, and services and housing units that will really help change the dynamic in that part of our city. We're also very fortunate that we've had great success in backing and support from the Department of Transportation with our streetcar project. At one point, we had the largest Tiger grant for streetcar of any place in the country, and Secretary Fox was there. We've collaborated quite well with Secretary Castro on HUD issues, and we're engaged with him again on mobility issues. But the thing that's most important to us is that we have, during the time that President Obama has been in office and I've been in office, we have been able to increase our jobs numbers by a tremendous amount. Over 80,000 jobs have found their way to Kansas City. I don't say create jobs because I think as a mayor, I don't create jobs. We simply try to build an environment in which jobs can foster, and we've done that by promoting entrepreneurialism and startups. So this has been an administration that has helped my city tremendously, and for that I'm grateful, because at the end of the day, we're trying to move an agenda along that betters the lives of our citizens and provides them with jobs and services that they need. And this has been an administration that has reached out to us without our asking a lot of times and done some very good things for the people of Kansas City, Missouri. Thank you very much.
So I suppose we're starting with baseball credentials, so I'll just say Fresno's not far from San Francisco, and put the Giants championships on the table for all of you all to admire. And with that, let me just say good afternoon. I'm Ashley Swearingen, Mayor of Fresno, California. It's a 515,000 person city right in the heart of the state. We're the 5th largest in California and also the 34th largest city in the United States. Fresno is known for being the food capital of the world. We're also the fastest growing region in California, and we're known for our young and our diverse population. Unfortunately, in recent decades, we've also been known for chronic, long-term economic challenges and a near financial crisis during the Great Recession. But I'm very grateful and proud to say today that those economic conditions are being reversed in our city in no small part thanks addition, we had 2 federal officials actually move to Fresno. They were embedded in the mayor's office. They worked directly with local officials to help us really chart to a new path for our city. Partnerships
almost
with
5
and
years
support
later,
from the Obama administration. In 2011, Fresno was selected as one of 6 cities in the nation to participate in the White House's Strong Cities, Strong Communities initiative. As a result, we had half a dozen federal agencies that were assigned to our city to help us with our economic development plans, our downtown revitalization efforts, as well as our transportation infrastructure. In addition, we had 2 federal officials actually move to Fresno. They were embedded in the mayor's office. They worked directly with local officials to help us really chart a new path for our city. So almost 5 years later, the results are pretty incredible. We've developed environmentally cleared and adopted local land use plans that are geared towards revitalizing the older parts of our city and really accommodating new growth in Fresno. Last year, California broke ground on its high-speed rail system. It's the first of its kind in the nation, and that happened in downtown Fresno. Next month, we're breaking ground on another major public infrastructure project to support our downtown revitalization in our historic Main Street. Next week, we're issuing a contract to construct 2 new transit lines that are federally funded that serve major portions of our city. On top of all of that, Fresno's unemployment rate has been cut in half. Chronic homelessness has dropped by 60%. And after coming dangerously close to having to file municipal bankruptcy in 2013, I'm very proud to say that Fresno has paid off all of our negative fund balances. We've begun to restore core city services, and we're just 2 years away from hitting our targeted general fund emergency reserve levels. That will be the largest such rainy day fund in the history of our city, and I say that to say I really am a Republican. Challenges in our city still remain, of course. We have much work to do, but our partnership with the Obama administration has been pivotal in helping Fresno reverse the course of many decades of decline and to chart a new future for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And before I start my formal remarks, I want to first of all say this is pretty cool. Usually as a mayor, you don't say it's cool talking to the press, but today is one of those days. So it's great to be here. And I have no idea why I'm up here because my sports credentials certainly don't fly with Kansas City, and I know that my little football team's playing Sunday, so sorry, guys. But it's a great opportunity to be here. I want to thank Josh, and I want to thank my fellow mayors for joining me today. One of the things, I've been mayor of Boston now for heading into my 3rd year, and one of the things that's been the most surprising about being mayor of a city is the support you get from the administration in Washington, D.C. Never really expecting that. And President Obama and the White House have been tremendous partners in cities across America, particularly with, and this is probably a little controversial, particularly with the inability for Congress to act on so many different pieces of legislation that affect our cities. And the fact that that's not happening in Washington, D.C., it's really taken upon the mayors that we have to do more. We have to do more to try and get things done. And the Obama administration, the Obama White House has been a very good partner in many of those because they understand what it takes to move cities ahead and what it takes for cities to lead. Boston's been proud to answer the White House's call in ensuring health and safety in our communities, as well as growing opportunities for our children and all our residents. We're investing right now because of initiatives working very closely with the administration in affordable homes. We broke a record last year in the city of Boston by creating 1,000 low-income affordable homes. That's not all of the housing we've done in the city of Boston. That's a piece of low-income housing. We've been able to set records in other areas of housing. We launched a citywide housing plan to create 53,000 units of new housing by the year 2030. We're into the first lady's call to end veterans homelessness, and I was happy to announce at my State of the City 2 nights ago that we ended chronic veterans homelessness in the city of Boston, and we're working towards a goal of ending all chronic homelessness by the year 2018. We're supporting our workforce by creating skill building opportunities. Boston received a $3 million grant from the Department of Labor to go apprentices in construction and hospitality. We're offering free salary negotiation workshops with the American Association of University Women for women to help women understand and help them negotiate when they're going for a job so that the economic gap that they have with men gets closed. We're working on that. The other night, we also announced a task force to look at a $15 an hour minimum wage in the city of Boston. We don't have the ability in the city of Boston right now to raise the minimum wage because it's a state law, but we're going to work through a task force to see how we can do that. We established the first ever parental leave policy to support workplace and career development. Boston is also, I feel, a leader of community police relations. My Brother's Keeper has been a tremendous success in our city, where we've engaged the community, particularly young men of color, but we're also tying in the young women of color as well, and we're very active there. Some of our stats: violent crime this year in 2015 went down by 3%, property crime went down by 10%, homicide rates fell to a 16-year low, all the while our arrests also dropped by 15%. So in Boston, we don't believe in locking people up, we believe in lifting people up, and we're working to make that happen across our city. And in 2016, I look forward to working very closely with the White House to address the issue of substance abuse. The U.S. Conference of Mayors named me the chairman of the Substance Abuse Task Force. I have a great working relationship with Michael Botticelli, who works for the administration, and I look forward to working with the administration because substance abuse is in every single one of our communities all across America. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party. Drug addiction is affecting everyone. So the White House has made a real commitment. The U.S. Conference of Mayors have made a real commitment. I look forward to working with them. Thank you.
Excellent. Let's take some questions here. Tara, you're the first.
Welcome. I'm from Kansas City, so
You're delightful.
this is rare. 3 people from Kansas City at the White House. I work at the BBC, and I'd like to ask you about race relations. You
Yes.
talked about the administration in Kansas City. What has the president done to help Kansas City and the state, also around Kansas City, deal with race relations?
Well, the best thing that he's done was he was elected twice. That in and of itself says something about race relations, because before his election, there were people who believed that that was an impossibility. A lot of older African Americans thought they would never have an opportunity to see that in their lifetime. So the mere fact that he was elected is a tribute not only to him, but to this country, and the fact that there were people in this country far surpassing the numbers of African Americans who had to participate in that election to elect him. So that gave us hope right off the bat. Number 2, he's been to Kansas City, I think, 4 times. It's not just because he likes the barbecue or my bow ties. He's been there because we're doing things. And when he comes to this city and we're able to show the people of Kansas City that the President of the United States is in town, we're able to leverage that in the conversations about race. The main thing that he has done is he's put into place a set of policies that in my city we are able to build upon. Tech Hire, for example, allows us to put people who've been out of the workforce for over 18 months back into employment. That's something that takes place and is very important in the minority community. All of those things are important. The Choice Neighborhood Grant is going to affect race, racially discrete area of town, but it's also a diverse area of town. And those types of things are things that actually have an impact on people's lives, and those are the types of things that we use in order to leverage good conversations about race and race relations.
Excellent. Justin.
Mayor Walsh, I was wondering if I could ask you about the minimum wage
Yeah.
study that you announced a couple days ago. I think there's some question about whether you support a $15 minimum wage or whether the study is to determine whether or not you'd support it.
Both. I mean, this study's for both. I support a $15 an hour minimum wage, but also we're going to have business leaders, nonprofits, community engagement workers sitting down talking about how would this be implemented, what the effects would be. I certainly support a $15 an hour minimum wage. As a legislator, I voted for the increase in minimum wage a couple times in Massachusetts. But this is the task force to really look at how do we get there. And also, we're going to need a state law change to be able to get there.
Is that something that you've been working with people here at the White House on, or is that just...
No, well, the president made the initiative, spoke about it, and really, when the president started talking about, and the secretary, Perez, when he started talking about the $15 minimum wage, Department of Secretary of Labor, a lot of conversations started happening in Boston. Cities like Seattle did it. And then it starts to go across the country. So a lot of people have been talking about it. We have 2 hospitals in Boston, Boston Medical Center and Tufts Medical Center, that both increased their wage, the lowest wage to their employees to $15 an hour. So we're starting to see the momentum going that way. So I felt it was the appropriate time. And there was also a study that came out that said the income inequality gap is #1 in the city of Boston in the country. So we have to address those issues.
Juliet.
Also for Mayor Walsh on this issue of substance abuse, but again, if the other mayors want to speak to this too, obviously this is something that the president has elevated in recent weeks. Can you talk about what specifically you think this administration needs to do to help tackle this problem, and anything else you would say for context about how you think the national approach to heroin and prescription drug abuse has changed given what we've been seeing nationwide?
Well, first of all, I just as far as the national approach, I think that the approach to addiction is very different in different cities and towns across America. So I think what we have to do is not one system is going to fix the problem when it comes to addiction. And I think really what the White House can do the best of right now is sit down with the Conference of Mayors and work with us, and also with SAMHSA and with their own department, and figure out what's needed around the country. Some cities and towns have done some good things. Some states have done some good things. Some states have ignored it because it's the stigma around it. When I say ignored, I'm not saying in a critical way. It's like any family, any member watching this press conference right now. They have a loved one that's in the grips of addiction. They can't talk to anyone. They're embarrassed. There's a stigma there. So I think that part of what the White House can do the best is listen, and then come up with some policies on how we address the issue. I think the fact that it can't be just a money situation. You can't just throw money at the situation, even though we do need money for detoxes and treatment center. So I think we have to work, how do we get a continuum of care that can work that way? And how do we also get some best practices into our schools and into America to talk about how do we get prevention? And I think that the addiction that we're seeing today, particularly around prescription drugs, is something that we've never seen in this country before. We've had addiction for a long time, but because of prescription drugs, we see it rampant. And again, it's different every city, but at the end of the day, it comes down to a stigma. So I think that the White House can do a lot around it.
Is there anything that the other two mayors might want to say about what you've seen in your communities?
Okay. All right. Kathleen?
I have a question for Mayor Swearingen. The president's lately been on a push to change the narrative around the economy, to change people's perceptions, and as part of that, he's been really critical of Republicans, saying that they're talking down the economy and sort of exaggerating problems. I'm wondering from where you sit if you agree with him on that.
Well, certainly in our struggle in Fresno to deal with chronic long-term unemployment, when we see good job reports, for example, in 2014, our job creation rate was actually one of the highest in the nation and one of the best in the world. So in Fresno, what we do is we celebrate that, we honor and recognize that achievement, but we also look at how high the mountain is that we still have left to climb. So usually what I find in these debates, whether it's right versus left or the other way around, it's usually a both and. It is both the case that there are good things happening, there's momentum, and there are strengths to build on, but it also is the case that there's a lot farther that we need to go. So that's our focus in Fresno is, celebrate the success, but then get back to work, because we know we need 10 years of good job performance to really be where we want to be as a city.
JC?
Mayor of Boston, needless to say, tomorrow, within 24 hours, Mayor, we have a major snow event on its way. Your advice?
Well,
You know it well.
yeah, I do. I think I saw the mayor of Washington on TV last night. I think that's number one. The best thing you can do is get on TV and talk about what the preparation is. Number two is make sure you have in the wings, if Washington gets hit with 2 feet of snow, which we dealt with last winter several times, be prepared to reach out to your partners. My public works department in the city of Boston has already contacted me. If we don't get hit with the snow that's getting hit in Washington, we bought 2 truck-mounted snow blowers last year to remove the snow off the street. So when I see the mayor later on today, I'm going to offer to her if she needs these snow blowers to come to the city to help her. We will help. Last year, we had great help from around the country. The White House reached out to us right away. We had mayors from around the country that send their crews up and send their equipment up. We needed it. I mean, we had literally 3 weekends, 3 blizzards in a row, and we set a record, as most of you in this room know, for all-time snow, and it didn't melt until March or April, and the last bit of snow melted in July. I think it was July 17th, so I feel bad. I'm leaving tonight, and I'm going to hopefully watch on TV and not look out the window and see it. Thank you.
Good. Leslie?
Thanks. Mayor Swearingen? I had a question for you on the drought remains a critical problem in California. Have you talked to the administration? Is there more they could be doing on it?
The drought is absolutely still in a critical issue in California, even though we're starting to see rainfall this year. It's a welcome sign, but the reality is we still need major cooperation between the federal and the state government to make sure that to the greatest extent possible we are keeping and storing that water, because we know we are a long way from being out of this hole that we're in. So it is always a struggle. It's a very complicated issue, and yes, I've talked with folks at the White House about the need to literally be in the weeds counting the number of fish that may be close to a pump, and the second we have a chance to turn on the pumps and store some water, we have to do that. So it is a constant press for us from California here in DC.
Do you feel like the administration is doing enough?
No, I think they're very focused on the issue. I don't think yet we've seen the resolution that we need to see, and it's incumbent upon both the federal and the state government to really efficiently manage the water situation and the pumps, and course, there are great debates over exactly when the right moments are to turn them on. But as Mayor of Fresno, all I can say is make sure that every drop of water that can be stored for next summer is being stored.
Mayor Walsh, first of all, my condolences to your team this weekend out from Denver. They're going down, just letting you know now. I do honestly want to say congratulations on GE, and this is probably for all three of you. I want to talk about job attraction to cities and how you avoid brain drain. This probably doesn't happen often in Boston. Young people graduate and they tend to stick around the hub. But what advice would you give to mayors and other leaders in middle-sized and smaller cities to keep their brains in town? Because what happens is often they'll graduate from college and they go to other places, whether in Kansas City they move to Chicago or Denver, in Fresno they go to Los Angeles or San Francisco. What advice would you give?
Well, I think first of all, we do everything we can to keep the talent in the city of Boston. We lose a lot of people in Boston. We have 25 college universities within the heart of the city and 75 within the greater Boston, including Boston. So we have those conversations all the time in our city. Some of it is by trying to change some social perceptions of Boston as far as the nightlife and make it more lively. The housing stock is a big key. Part of my reason for announcing creation of 53,000 units of new housing is because the cost, the affordability of our city. Young people leave because they can't afford to live there. Also trying to attract new businesses, tech and startup companies. The downtown Boston area, which is all skylines and big buildings in the financial district. In the past, it's been insurance companies and financial services. 35% of those companies are filled by high-tech companies. So we have to constantly work at this every single day. GE was a very big win for the city of Boston, but it doesn't mean that we stop there. We have to continue to try and attract new businesses to our city. So what I would suggest to other cities, it's about quality of life, to keep young people there. It's the job and quality of life, and part of that quality of life is what's the environment living in that city? Is it a safe city? Is it a walkable city? Is it an affordable city? And I think those are the key components to trying to keep young people or attract young people to your area.
How many jobs came with GE, by the way?
About 1,000. About 1,000.
Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Mayor James, would you like to address this?
We have a slightly different approach. I frankly believe that the day of chasing smokestacks from one area to another has become too expensive and too unpredictable. We like to try to grow our own and to create an atmosphere where people come from other places like Boston to Kansas City. And I certainly don't want to disadvantage Mayor Walsh or Mayor Swearingen, but the fact of the matter is the competition right now is less for businesses than it is for talent. And we are definitely in the talent competition business. When we were chosen along with Kansas City, Kansas to be the first cities in the country to have Google come in and install fiber, our phones lit up, our televisions lit up, everything lit up with people curious about how that could be used in order to promote entrepreneurism and startups. And it's been very successful. We started a place called Startup Village, which straddles the line between Kansas and Missouri, where young people, as a matter of fact, Mayor, there were 3 kids that showed up at a reception for Code for America. They came in off the street. I asked them where they were from. They said they had just driven in from Boston to go live at Startup Village, where they started their business that deals with software for home 3D printers. And they moved to Kansas City. They're still there.
They must have left their Red Sox hats in the car.
They did, because now they're all wearing Royals jerseys. But we have a tremendously active entrepreneurial population with a lot of startups. We surprised Tech Week. They brought Tech Week in on kind of an experimental basis, expecting 1,500 people. 4,000 showed up. And during the time of Tech Week, we had launch code that we used, and we gave away $500,000 and $50,000 blocks to 10 selected entrepreneurial enterprises, which have now grown and are getting secondary and third level funding. So we're developing jobs at home, because we believe that if we develop the jobs there, they're more likely to stay. And the process of trying to chase the big companies costs cities way too much money in terms of incentives and such. So we want to make sure that we're building a city for the future that is attractive to people. And it doesn't hurt that we have a very reasonable cost of living in Kansas City. Anybody who wants to move to Kansas City, we have plenty of houses and you can afford them.
Mayor Swearingen?
I'll just chime in quickly and reinforce what my colleagues have said, and you'll notice a theme when you're talking to mayors. Every mayor has the best city ever, so we're all, touting our city's credentials. So absolutely the case for mid-sized cities. There's no way that you should have any expectation that you can find the money necessary to become a major center like a Boston, in our case, San Francisco or LA. So you absolutely have to focus on, number one, build a great urban center in your community. Cities have to have the type of quality urban infrastructure that this generation wants to be in a downtown setting. So making sure your city center is as amazing as it can be, authentic and genuine to who you are as a community, number one. Number two, I'll repeat it again because it's that important. Entrepreneurship is really the key. So in Fresno, we focus on entrepreneurship education, started at the undergraduate level, developed a degree in entrepreneurship, taught a bunch of college students how to start their own businesses, then went to the graduate level, then down to the community college level, then high school. We have the only high school in the United States that is dedicated entirely to entrepreneurship. And now every fifth grader in Fresno Unified gets entrepreneurship training as well. So it is absolutely the case that we have to grow our own, knowing that that really will reap the benefits down the road.
Mark?
Ask all the mayors what they think of what's been going on in Flint, Michigan, the crisis there. The president yesterday seemed to think this is a real cautionary tale about neglecting infrastructure. Do you guys share that view? Have you been calling your water departments lately?
Let me just, first of all, I spoke to Gina McCarthy last week from the White House because our water and sewer department is one of the best in the country, Boston Water and Sewer, partly because of a federal court case that forced us to make some changes. So we're trying to reach out to the people of Flint, Michigan, help them with some of the infrastructure problems. I mean, that's an issue where I think mayors and the federal government have an obligation to come together and try and help another city that's in desperate need of support. And I think that anything that we can do from the city of Boston through the White House, which we're doing right now, we're going to offer any support we can. I think that's our obligation as mayors to work with the administration. That's not a partisan issue. That's something that's right for American people and for the people of Flint.
I certainly will. I'd say that any time that you get more than 3 mayors in a room, there will be 2 subjects that are always going to be discussed. One is education, and the other is infrastructure, because we deal with infrastructure. And I know that these mayors would tell you that the businesses that reside in our cities are very keen about the infrastructure that's available to them and the impact it has on their ability to conduct business. Infrastructure has been neglected in this country, and it needs to change, because if it does not change, we're going to be in serious trouble. At some point, it's going to become a national security issue if it's not already. But infrastructure is huge, not just roads and bridges, but water infrastructure. In Kansas City, we're engaged in an EPA mandate now of an overflow control project. It's about 25 years on the horizon at about $4 billion. It's a very expensive and costly thing, but it's something, frankly, that we probably should have done 30 years ago and didn't do. Now we're paying extra to catch up. That's what happens when you neglect things. That old thing that we had that our mothers taught her, a stitch in time saves 9. We're doing that with infrastructure, except it's a lot more serious, and it's across the board. So by addressing infrastructure in a positive and concrete way, we accomplish a couple of things. We become stronger, we become more agile, we become more able to support our business and security needs, but we also put people to work. So infrastructure is huge. We don't have the water infrastructure problems that are going on in Flint, Michigan. That's also a very serious health problems, and frankly, it's horrible. There should not be people, there should not be children in this country in this day and age drinking leaded water, especially with what we know, and certainly not for as long as it's been going on. So we have to take care of our business, and that's a basic thing. Water is essential to life in this country, and it's something that should never have happened, and hopefully will be rectified soon.
I think about it every day. I see the reports every night on the news, and as I'm watching what's unfolding, I am stunned by the tragic circumstances. And I'm also grateful that in Fresno we took significant steps over the last 3 years to raise the rates, which nobody likes, no mayor ever wants to champion increasing water rates. But we knew in Fresno for 25 years there had been talk about the need to upgrade our infrastructure, take better advantage of our surface water, stop pulling water up out of the ground, which is potentially contaminated. It took us ultimately 5 years to get the rates passed. We went through lawsuits, we went through a voter referendum, but ultimately those rates were passed. And as a result, we've got $600 million of infrastructure being spent to upgrade our water infrastructure. And frankly, you know, I think ultimately Fresnans came to grips with the fact that we were going to have to invest in our water infrastructure, but all you have to do is turn on the TV and see what's happening in Flint to know that was the right decision. And while painful in the immediate term, it is the right thing to do for our kids, our grandkids, and our great-grandkids.
We've got time for one more. Mike, you want to do the last one?
Mayor swearing in again. Governor Brown is giving his State of the State address again today, and he, speaking of water, is going to probably address his Delta Fix plan. I wonder if you want to weigh in on that and what you think the impact might be. And then also a political question. It's not often you hear a Republican praising the White House and talking about their cooperation with the White House to the extent that you might be on a statewide ballot again. I know there's this top two system, which is a little bit more unpredictable, but are you not worried about this clip being played down the road?
Well, I'll take the second question first. And, you know, my mom and my grandmother were always big when I was growing up in saying you give credit where credit is due, and you always tell the truth. So it is the case that Fresno has been substantially supported and improved as a result of the work and our partnership with the Obama administration. To say otherwise would not be telling the truth. That doesn't mean that in every circumstance I may agree with the administration, but it is absolutely the case that there's been good work done on behalf of the residents of Fresno. So I, as mayor, need to be the first one to help tell that story and speak the truth about what's been going on. Whether or not there are political consequences, there always are, but it doesn't matter. At some point, you have to choose a different path and choose leadership and to do the right thing. As far as the governor's State of the Union goes, I'm sorry to miss it. I've got other things going on here, look, I don't know that there is a more complicated issue in the United States than water issues in California, and I really applaud the governor for taking on a comprehensive water fix. I know there will be lawsuits, challenges. There are all kinds of complicated issues that have to be worked out. Fresno is south of the Bay Delta, and so obviously we would benefit from more water coming south. But I certainly respect and appreciate if that were my water in the Bay Delta, I would be fighting every bit as hard as we see people fighting there. So ultimately my hope is that cooler heads can prevail, that there are technological solutions, that there are policy solutions, and honestly, if anybody can help figure this out, it's going to be Governor Brown. So certainly rooting for him to be successful in this effort.
Well, thank you all for spending some time with us.
Thank you.
Hey, Mayor Walsh, any chance you can take Papelbon back with you?
We're focused on one football game right now, and it's that worry about the Red Sox later on.
Mayor Walsh, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Okay.